Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. It's Tuesday afternoon, December the 12th. And like every Tuesday, I am joined by Mr. Paul Bovi, usually Mr. Chip Chirimbus too, but Chip was having some technical difficulties. Doesn't look like he's going to be joining us today. But we are going to be covering two NFL games today, as Paul will be taking a look at the Steelers and the Colts game. I'll be taking a look at the Broncos and Lions matchup. Both games go on Saturday. Chip was scheduled to do the Vikings and Bengals. Maybe me and Paul will chime in on that contest, just give our brief thoughts, even though neither one of us are prepared to talk about that game. I'm sure we can make heads or tails about some kind of sports betting related items when it comes to that contest. In any event, Paul, how are you?
Doing great, Ross. Looking forward to another good week. It was an excellent week or excellent day on Sunday. 4-1. We posted a max unit play on the Chicago Bears. We posted that on Sunday night when the line was, I believe, 4 or 4.5. I think I posted it when it was 4.5. I know I played it at 4.5. And as I've mentioned previous on shows, we like to get those early numbers because they normally go in our direction. I got one up there right now. But yes, all in all, a great week and doing just fine.
Yeah, I'm looking at 4-1 over the last 7 days, which is number one in money earned at the site over that period of time. You're also number two over the last 30 days, number three over the last 60 days. So Paul's getting it done, folks. NFL, let's see here, number two over the last 7 days, like he just alluded to. College football over the last 30 days, Paul is number one with a 9-3 record. As you could see, he selects his spots carefully. He's not a big volume guy, but he hits a high percentage over the last 60 days, 20-10 in college football. Good for $4,105 profit, which is number one in college football over the last 60 days and number one over the last 90 days in college football, number two overall in college football at the site since its inception. So good stuff from Paul. And speaking of college football, folks, we have a college football bowl special up right now for all 10 handicappers at gamblersworld.net. For only $2.99, you get the entire bowl season from any handicapper of your choice, whether it be me, Paul, or the other 8 great handicappers, up to 43 games that are available. I could say for myself, last year I went number one. I was number one on a lot of sites and in the top 5 at every other site with a 13-4 bowl record. So I'm not a big volume guy at this time of year when it comes to college football bowl games, and I'll go out on a limb and say that Paul isn't either. He selects his spots, as you can see what he's done during the regular season. That's correct, right, Paul?
Look, this you say 43 bowl games. I didn't have a count, but I will say that I'll probably have selections on 11 to 12.
Yeah.
I already have one up there. The line has moved as I expected it to, but I'm going to say I'm comfortable with that number.
Yeah, there you go. So, like I said, I gave out 17 last year. And, Paul, I haven't discussed this with you off air, and I don't think I discussed this with you on air, but a lot more obstacles that we need to cross as opposed to past seasons, with this transfer portal. We talked about that at length this morning with Jesse Schule and Sean Higgs. And these, a lot easier for these kids to transfer now as opposed to even 5 to 10 years ago, where if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. Now you could transfer without having to sit out. Now you could transfer twice without having to sit out. There's the NIL deals that players seem to use to their advantage now, and rightfully so. If it's in place, why not? So a lot to account for. Head coaching changes, coaches getting fired with 2 games left in the regular season, a new coach being named, players opting out of the bowl games because they want to move to a different team or program because they don't know if they're going to fit the plans of the new head coach or the coaching staff. So a lot to account for, Paul.
Yeah, and sometimes you're going to get the best of it, and sometimes you're going to get the worst of it. And you just got to roll with the punches because there will be there will be volatility on these numbers.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just look at that Ohio State Missouri situation, and
Yep.
Missouri has flipped to a favorite after Ohio State opened up a 6 point chalk. So this is something you're going to have to deal with, and what you want to try to do is assess which players may step out. Now, probably you have a good idea of what these teams are going to look like at this point, because most of them that were going to step out did step out at this point. But you'll have a couple players just making late decisions and deciding, hey, I don't want to play in the game, and that's something that you have to try to evaluate as you're handicapping these bowl games.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the starting quarterback for Ohio State who opted out, who saw that coming? He wants to go to a different program. Maybe he got a better NIL deal. I don't know. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. Hasn't declared what he's going to do. He hasn't even declared if he's going to go into the draft yet, which is mind-boggling to me, Paul, because I would think he would be a top 10 selection in the draft in April, or May, whenever that occurs. But having said that, it's not something that we're not used to now, but it's something we've had to adjust and evolve into, as opposed to what we had to deal with in past years. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the volume of plays I put out. I would like to say yes, because I'm a lot more careful. And, it's, again, if there's any kind of uncertainty in terms of player situations and whoever the head coach is, if it's an interim coaching staff, I tend to be a little conservative in that regard. So, again, college football special, $2.99. You get all our bowl selections, whether it be 11, whether it be 17, or in Sean Higgs' case, probably close to 30. You're going to get everything that we put out. And you're going to get our guarantee, too, that if we don't make a profit for you during the course of the bowl season, your account will be credited back $299. You could use it any which way you like, anytime you want, on any handicapper you wish. All right, let's get to the meat and the potatoes, Paul. And you're going to be looking at the Steelers and the Colts right now. Indianapolis is a 3-point favorite. The total in this game is 42. You look at the home away dichotomies of the Colts, they're not very good at home. And the Steelers are reeling right now. So this is a tough call for me, but it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think, my man.
Well, Ross, I've been throwing shade at the Steelers the entire year. In fact, I think I was on the show earlier, and my assessment of Pittsburgh versus Jacksonville was that the Jaguars were going to come in on the road and easily defeat the Steelers, and they have been outgained in the preponderance of their contest this year. But I think this is a great spot for Pittsburgh, because I don't look at this Indianapolis team as one that is very good. Now, this past Sunday, Cincinnati pretty much manhandled them. It wasn't really a close game. And at one point, Indianapolis had a pick six, got back into it, tied it 14-14, but Cincinnati just pulled away late and made it a comfortable win. But if you look at the prior four games of Indianapolis, and they played weak teams, Carolina, Tampa Bay were amongst those. They gave up 618 yards rushing in 124 attempts. They do not stop the run. And in the midst of this, they let Darius Leonard walk, who was one of their leading tacklers in that little streak there. The only person that is holding this defense together is Zaire Franklin right now. And they did a decent job against the Bengals. On Sunday, they held Joe Mixon to 79 yards, but it took them 21 carries to do it. Overall, 3.5 yards a rush. But the Steelers have been getting their groove on when it comes to their running game. They struggled against New England, but in the prior games, they were successful. They had over 200 versus Green Bay, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball here against the team, which, by the way, is using two cornerbacks who are rookies. One of them is an undrafted rookie. One of them, I believe, is a seventh rounder. They have defensive liabilities. They play a zone defense most of the time. You could run against zone defense, and that might be partly responsible for their weakness against the run. So I think the backs for the Steelers are going to go off. The X factor here is Mitch Trubisky. He's just not very good. Wasn't great on Sunday or in their last game against New England, I should say, on the Thursday night. And I just think, though, that if he doesn't make mistakes, that the Steelers will be able to run the football. They'll take control of the game. I played the Steelers. I played their team total over. And I think the Steelers are going to come out with a win and get off the schneid.
I agree with you, Paul. I've been professing for the better part of the year, even when they were 6-3, that I thought Pittsburgh was a fraud. And I used their yard per game and point per game differential as a prime example of that. It didn't match up with their record. And I said it would be a matter of time before that would catch up to them. And it certainly has. They've lost 3 of their last 4. But having said that, you just can't write them off for the year when you evaluate the NFL card week to week. It's all about matchups. And you mentioned it. Pittsburgh, if they do anything well offensively, is run the ball. Indianapolis, look at the run defense. I mean, I'm going back to all the way back to October the 22nd, starting with that game against Cleveland. And they've allowed 150, 161, 138, 167, 125, 177. And then last week, as Paul indicated, they only allowed 111 yards and held Joe Mixon to 71 yards. That was their best game in terms of defending the run. And they did give up 274 yards to Jake Browning and the Bengals in the air last week. Again, Mitch Trubisky is somebody I don't have a high level of confidence with. I didn't have a high level of confidence with Kenny Pickett for that matter. But by the same token, Paul, it's if you could run the ball effectively, it takes a lot of onus off your quarterback, and it does open up the play action passing game, which could make meaning Trubisky's life a little bit more comfortable, and he could be a little more effective as a result. So yeah, I agree with you, Paul. I'm with you on Pittsburgh.
Indianapolis has been so lucky. If you look at that Tennessee game, and I was on the Titans that game, Nick Folk had not missed a field goal within 40 yards on his previous 75 tries. So how do you explain him missing an extra point? Now, his holder was out because his holder was the punter who was injured when the punt was blocked. But it was still a good hold, and everything looked fine, and he somehow misses the extra point, and it goes to overtime. And they end up losing game, the Titans do. You go to that Carolina game, and you mentioned 138 yards. Yeah, it was on 28 carries versus the Panthers. And they were lucky because Kenny Moore had 2 pick sixes.
Yeah.
And then against Tampa Bay, it certainly could have flipped the other way. It was 27-20. Bucs had every chance to win that game. A turnover hurt them early, I believe a failed 4th down conversion. They have been a very fortunate team, and I think their luck is going to run out here against a team that's reeling, but is still, in my opinion, fairly well coached, and they have good enough personnel to win this game. And I see the Steelers 24. I'm going to call it 24-17 Steelers.
There you go, from Paul Bovi. And folks, when I tell you he's a real live wise guy, I don't make stuff up. This is not a 70s or 80s show where people used to say things that couldn't be documented or proven. I know for a fact that he plays a lot of money per game, and you need to pay attention when he's got a strong opinion. And this seems to be one of those strong opinions. Yeah, going back to Indianapolis again, I made the comment about their home and away dichotomy. I mean, at home this year, despite their 7-6 record on the season, they're 2-4 at home. So they did beat Tampa Bay, as Paul alluded to. I mean, but you look at, they just had their 4-game win streak snap last week in that blowout loss at Cincinnati. But look who they beat: Tennessee, who's currently 5-8, I believe. Tampa Bay, they're 6-7. New England, who is 3-10, and Carolina, who's 1-12. So it's not like they're getting a lot of wins. And then their win before that was against Tennessee again. They did manage to beat Baltimore and Houston early in the season, but their last 5 wins have all come against teams that currently have a losing record. So again, this looks like a good matchup for Pittsburgh, and Paul Bovi says take the Pittsburgh Steelers -3 over the Indianapolis Colts. Paul, tell the folks a little bit what you foresee in the coming week. Again, we touched upon your records and stuff, but anything else you would like to add from a promotional standpoint that people could look for over at gamblersworld.net?
Well, we've been doing this for what, 14 weeks? I've only lost 3 games on these free plays. So I think that makes me something like 11-3. So all I could say is that's a fairly good record, and maybe you should be tailing. If you're not going to buy the picks, you could grab the free plays. It's a valid opinion. But I will have some NFL up. I do have 1 game up right now, or 2. I'm not sure. But I'll probably have 4 or 5 games up this week. At the very least 3. I don't love the card this week as I did last week, but it's good enough to have a minimum of 3. And if I feel comfortable, I'll go 4 or 5. But as far as college bowls, look, I'm probably, as I said, going to have around 11 to 12. I want to feel comfortable with what I put out there. I want to feel comfortable that the line is going to move in our favor. I have 1 game up there now. The line has moved. It is a total, but I think there's still room to play it, or else I would give it out right now, which I've done in the past. If a line moves too much, I just say, I don't want you to pay for it because there's no value left. I still think there's value in this number. So, I'm going to hit it as hard as I can, hopefully make you some money and make myself some money in the process.
Don't forget, bowl season $2.99. Get all Paul Bovi's college football bowl selections, and you can get all mine for the same price. And it's all guaranteed, folks. If you don't win, you don't make a profit. We will credit your account back the exact amount of your purchase price, which in this case would be $2.99 unless you use some credit toward that purchase. Again, folks, we just, whatever you pay out of your pocket for that specific package is the bottom line, and we will credit back your account. And, when it comes to us too, as long in the other 8 handicappers, I like to think the majority of the time it's a moot point, but timing is everything. You never know. So you have that peace of mind and assurance that if you catch us on a bad run, you're going to get your account credited. All right, let me get to my game, and then we'll get Paul's thoughts on my contest as well. I'm going to look at the Broncos and the Lions on Saturday evening. And right now, the Lions are a 5-point favorite, and the total is 46.5. I looked up and down at this from a lot of different angles, and I decided to use the total here. Denver, by the way, their last 7 games when there's been a total of 40 or greater, they've gone under the total on each occasion. That's 7-0 to the under in their last 7 games when the total is 40 or more. You could say that's coincidental, but I don't think so, because the bottom line is the average total in those 7 games was 45.6, and there was only 36.1 points per game scored. So well under the total and well under that average total. So Detroit, on the other hand, they've tailed off a bit offensively of late. Since putting up 41 points and 533 yards against the Chargers in their next 4 games leading up to this week, they only averaged 354 yards per game. I say only 354 because this was a team that was averaging well over 400 yards per contest during that run. And the 354 is even with their average per game now, which is a little over 390, that's still well below their season average. And a lot of that has to do with ball security. You commit turnovers. It's a drive killer on numerous occasions. And that's been the case with the Lions. It's not that they're not moving the ball. It's when they do move it, their drives get stalled because they turn it over. As a matter of fact, over the last 4 games, this is a Detroit Lions team that's committed 10 turnovers. Now, they're going to be facing a Denver team or Denver defense, whatever way you want to term it, that's forced 17 turnovers over their last 6 games. And that's really carried them in terms of the success they've had of late. I mean, this isn't a Denver offense that's putting up a lot of points and yards, folks. They're only averaging around 300 yards per game. And they're getting it done with their defense. And if you go back all the way back to that 70 spot they allowed to Miami, this is arguably and probably the most improved defense in the NFL since that point. Detroit's coming off a 28-13 loss at Chicago as a 3-point favorite. And you guys know from watching me over the years, I love my NFL betting angles and using my database to produce an angle which supports a way that I like or a selection that I'm going to use. It's not solely what I base my pick on, but it's a supporting factor. In this case, since 2014, NFL home teams like the Detroit Lions that are coming off a straight up favorite loss by 14 points or more, like they are against Chicago last week, 49-15 to the under. That's 76.5%. And the average total in all those games, 46.2. Right now, this total, is 46.5. So another supporting factor to everything else I like about the under in this game. Paul, I'm going to go under 46.5 here with the Broncos and the Lions.
Well, I think that's actually the right side. And first of all, I'm not a fan of Russell Wilson. I am a fan of the Denver Broncos. I actually have their win total over for the year. I thought I was dead and buried, but my ticket has been resurrected. I forgot what the number is. I think it's 8, but I've got a shot to win it or at least push it. Russell Wilson has fallen victim to what we all fall victim to, and that's age. And I think he's definitely tailed off this year. Last year, he's taking sacks. He's not as accurate as he used to be. His decision making is at this point flawed. I wasn't impressed with him against the Texans. I felt they could have easily won that game. Didn't get it done down the stretch. On the other side, the Lions, yes, their offense has definitely tailed off. You know, they only had 161 yards against the Bears. Jared Goff did against the Bears on Sunday. Overall, their offense was pretty much shut down. Sam Laporta only had 2 receptions for, I think, 23 yards. St. Brown, I think, had 3 for 21 or 29. That was his lowest total of the year. I just think their offense has, I'm not going to say it's disappeared, but it's maybe a little bit missing in action. So I think that under right now is the play. The question is Detroit's defense. It hasn't been very good, but what's the answer to a bad defense? A faulty offense. And I think the Broncos have that. So I think you've got a situation where that Bronco defense has really stepped up, and it's been coincidentally or otherwise without the services of Kareem Jackson, who was hurt, then suspended. But somehow they have absolutely turned this around. They completely shut down Justin Herbert and the Chargers on Sunday until Herbert got hurt and was replaced by Easton Stick. And they're getting it done defensively. So I'm going to agree with you on this under 46.5. I think it goes to the low side.
All right. So those are our picks. We're going to take the Broncos and the Lions under 46.5. Paul likes the Pittsburgh Steelers minus the 3 against the Indianapolis Colts. I agree with them there for the reasons I mentioned as well. So there you have it, folks. 2 big winners in the NFL. Again, check us out at gamblersworld.net. It's there. You'll find all 10 handicappers of the highest quality, including us two. Leaderboards are posted all over. You got the $299 college football special. We have 3-day, 7-day, and 30-day packages. You heard over the long haul how we win. And by the way, folks, my recent records, my NFL, I started out the season in week 1 going 2-5. Extremely disappointing. But since that time, since week 2, 47-33 in the NFL, including a 5-unit top play winner on the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night. That's good for 59%. My college football since December 2nd of last year, 70-48, which is good for 59%. College basketball runs right now of 10-5 and 39-28. My college basketball totals since February 16th of 2022, as documented by Sports Camping, 59-35, good for 63%. Went 1-2 at my NBA sides last night, which is a rarity because I've been doing so well with them. But 52-23 with my NBA side since April 11th of this year, and that's good for 69%. And then all sports overall, terrific record in terms of all sports since August the 4th. Let me get that up for you real quickly before we go. All sports 196 and 142 right here at gamblersworld.net since August the 4th. And that's good for 58%. And those of you who have bet a dime a game and just didn't do the unit process, but just simply bet 1,100 to 100 out to make 1,000 on every one of those 338 picks, you made a profit of $39,860 during that time. So good stuff from myself and Paul. Don't forget, folks, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, take a second to do so. You're watching the program. You're obviously at this point very interested in sports betting. And we bring on some of the best guests you're going to find anywhere in the industry, not only Paul Bovi, but I bring on Jesse Schule and Sean Higgs, Chip Chirimbus, and Doug Upstone from DocSports.com as well. And we tape 6 times a week, actually tape 5 times a week. And then on Friday is our live shows at 3 p.m. Eastern time, where you get the opportunity to chime in with all your questions and comments at that time. And put that in your calendar. And also, folks, there's a like button right underneath. And if you're on your PC, just click on that WC logo. That'll get you subscribed. It's absolutely free. And also on your smart TV or your mobile device, you'll see a black subscribe button right underneath. Click on that. That will get you subscribed absolutely free. And then I'm going to ask that you take one step further, and it only takes you a couple seconds. Go into your YouTube settings. And this goes for those of you who have subscribed and haven't done this yet. It would be your benefit to go into your YouTube settings and click on that alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, and you'll be notified immediately upon us publishing our podcast here on our great channel. Paul, always a pleasure, and I hope you have a great week, and knock 'em dead, my friend. And any final thoughts before we leave?
Nah, it's looking forward to this time of year. It's holidays, it's food, and it's football. What's better than that?
Not much, my friend. A beautiful woman. Other than that,
Yeah.
no, not much. In any event, for Ross Benjamin and Paul Bovi, I'll be back tomorrow on Wednesday morning with Sean Higgs, Jesse Schule. We'll be talking college football bowl games at that time as well. And but for Paul and Ross, thank you for watching, folks. Take care and God bless.